let's move on over to running back. And you got a couple players you highlighted as buys. Ken Walker probably doesn't need much hype as to why to buy him, but there is a case that we might not have even seen his full ceiling yet. What has you putting Ken Walker as a buy, and also David Montgomery? A little interesting here. What makes these two guys you're looking at for running backs right now?
So yeah, Kenneth Walker is obviously the premium option, and everyone knows that Kenneth Walker is really good. He's had a great season over the past 4 games. He's averaging 20.5 points per game, but there might be a small buy window after he only had 13.2 fantasy points last week, and it was just kind of a mid-tier game that wasn't particularly exciting. But I honestly think that his usage last week might be even more encouraging than the blowout games that he's had, because he had 8 targets. And especially if you're playing in a PPR format, you have to have running backs that are involved in the passing game, or it's just going to be really hard to win. And the biggest question mark of Kenneth Walker coming into the draft was his lack of ability to catch passes. And the 8 targets last week suggests that the Seahawks are actually willing to throw him the ball, which is huge for his fantasy ceiling going forward.
100%. Yeah, playing 45 of 52 possible snaps, only 8 going to Travis Homer. Definition of an every down back, which was not the exact case, despite him having those 25-plus point blowups. We're seeing him get subbed in a lot on third down. That was not the case at all when we saw this Germany game. And obviously the 10-point dud, maybe that does scare anybody not looking at the underlying usage. Still was a top 21 running back even on that. You're probably going to have to sell something big to get him, but we'll talk about a few players who've had some huge games that might be able to move the needle and get you Ken Walker. What about Montgomery? He's pretty unsexy. I don't think anybody's ever sprinting to go get themselves David Montgomery, but you're considering him a pretty good buy here at trade deadlines. What do you got lined up for David Montgomery?
So yeah, I just want to caveat this by saying, like, if you have studs at running back already, like Austin Eckler, like CMC, like Kenneth Walker, like, don't go out and trade for David Montgomery just because he's on the buy list. But if you're in the position that you're desperate for running back help and you don't have a ton of assets to give up, I think Montgomery is a decent name because, one, the backup Khalil Herbert just got injured and he's going to be out for a while. So that should open up more touches for Montgomery. And he's already been playing about 2/3 of the snaps and hasn't really been producing a ton. 10.9 expected fantasy points per game isn't great, but the expected fantasy points suggest he should be a little bit better than what he's been. And at 13 carries and 2 targets per game, that has a little bit of a chance to increase, I think, with Herbert out. And if the Bears offense can keep producing, then I would think Montgomery would have a chance to put up some relatively decent numbers in the season. Like I said, not 100% confident that he's going to be a league winner or anything, but if you need a cheap option at running back, he would be a name I would look for.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, Jets, Green Bay, across his next 3 heading into the bye week. If you're in win now mode, I think that's a really good point. Atlanta and Green Bay are both top 5 matchups for your running backs, and the Jets are still middle of the pack. It wasn't like last year where they were insanely bad against running backs. They've definitely taken a big step forward, but still a team that can be run upon. So no Khalil Herbert these next 3 weeks. I see that as a solid, like, you need to win now, buy a running back that can carry you into the playoffs. Wouldn't be shocked that we've seen David Montgomery last year down the playoffs was the number 1 running back during your fantasy playoffs, other than Rashad Penny. So number 2 in terms of points per game. The guy can get it done for sure. First big extended stretches and with no Khalil Herbert for the foreseeable future. I think it's an interesting option. And I don't think it's going to be all that expensive because it is David Montgomery. You know, it's like gross. Nobody wants David Montgomery. And I think that's actually a really interesting, unsexy buy this guy now. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.